Devotees crowd the Naya by Diipánvita, August 10, 1979. Together with hundreds of Margis who wanted to see Baba at the airport, I was rushing to get a good spot, if possible, where I could just look at his face and feel his presence the most. The dancers of Tandava and Kaushiki were in the uniforms. The VSS guards were resplendent in their own. The orange robes of Ananda Marga Acharyas were blazing under the heat of the sun. We secured the permits necessary that would allow the Margis to welcome the Guru and his entourage with the proper ceremonies. A few of us managed to enter the restricted areas. I was running alongside bro Satya Yita, better known to me as Dr. Francis. We were out of breath, excited to meet the Guru, and when I asked him how we could go near Baba, he assured me we easily would, because if accosted by anyone, he would say that he was Baba's doctor, and I was Baba's nurse. We were like little children, extremely happy to meet the Father. The plane landed and we were waiting for Baba to alight. The dances of Kaushiki and Tandava were to be performed before him, and all the dancers were ready to do so as soon as he would show himself. It was said that Baba and his entourage were to remain in the VIP room and would not be allowed to enter the country. This news was a big blow to everyone. Some were stunned and could not move. Some were hysterically crying out. A few left to find out where Baba and his companions were. Some airport guards tried to pacify the Margis, and when not successful, forced them out of the area. When Baba was to step up the plane to leave the country, Margis wailed and shrieked. The pain was unbearable. For a long time, Mahárliká and Margis dreamt of the Master's third visit. It was a dream that turned out to be a nightmare to everyone at the airport to meet him. A few had a glimpse of him, many did not even have that chance. Later, we would find out that the Guru and his entourage were not allowed entry due to issues that still were connected to the year of persecution inflicted on the Guru and the Anandamarga organization, including the immolations and charges against Sri Anandamurtiji. From Mahárliká, Baba and his entourage went to Thailand and then to other countries. He was to visit also. In the years that followed, Mahárlikans continued to hope for another visit from the Guru. Background of deportation by Spulinga. Sri Prabhatranya Sarkar, lovingly called as Sri Anandamurtiji by his devotees, arrived on August 10, 1979 in the Philippines on the formal invitation of thousands of his followers to address a 4-day spiritual conference scheduled in Quezon City. Sri P.R. Sarkar, with his party of 9, was aboard the 12:20 noon JAL flight from Bangkok. In spite of the earlier intercession for the group by Assemblyman Eddie Lard with the Ministry of Tourism and MIA Administrator Tabuena to grant P.R. Sarkar a VIP reception which was granted by the ministry and the MIA officials, Sri P.R. Sarkar and his party were refused entry into the Philippines by the immigration office and prohibited to disembark with a last-minute order from the Immigration Commissioner's office. The Aviation Security Force, AVSE-COM, armed with armalities, came together with an ambulance. The AVSE-COM and the airport officials were also confused with the two contradictory directives, that from the MIA and Ministry of Tourism, which arranged a VIP reception and allowed the Margis down at the landing area to receive the Guru, and the other from the Immigration Commissioner. Attempts to reach the President or his cabinet ministers proved futile as the social secretaries refused to connect the representatives with them who were in a cabinet meeting. Immigration authorities tried to get Sri P.R. Sarkar to sign a paper, which would in effect cause him and his party to forfeit the costs of the airfare to and from Bangkok, in possession of all the valid necessary documents, which would entitle him and his party to visit the country for 21 days, even on a tourist visa. Sri Sarkar refused to do so. Thus, the Philippine government was forced by the airlines to pay for the airfare cost. Sri Sarkar and party were secretly transferred to a Bangkok-bound Thai international flight via a Toyota Coaster at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Immediately after the airport incident, organizational representatives filed letters of protest with the office of the Prime Minister Marcos regarding the incident and sought audience with him to clarify matters and reconsider PR Sarkar's entry to the Philippines. Then President Marcos sent an urgent note commissioning the Minister of Justice, Ricardo Puno, to investigate the matter. In a meeting with Justice Ricardo Puno, the representatives presented documents that clarified the distorted news stories on PR Sarkar was persecuted, but finally acquitted of all false charges filed during the martial law regime of Indira Gandhi. As proof of his acquittal, Sri Sarkar was issued a valid passport and was allowed to travel abroad. Intensified Devotion by Diipánvita. For many years after Bábá's deportation from Mahárliká, Margis continued to await his visit. Some decided to wait no more and visited him in India, and several had personal contact and Dharma Samiksha from the Guru. Devotion intensified the spirit of the all Margis to establish his mission here in Mahárliká. A sadhaka visited India and related his 2-hour PC with Bábá in a letter. I had 2-hour PC with Bábá, the longest in my life. I first told him that Margis of Manila region give their Namaskar, and Bábá did Namaskar and said, "You also convey my love and affection to them and tell them to work hard for the mission." 12th to 15th of June 1981. In Dang, a place in Cavite, 1 hour's drive from Manila, a very inspiring retreat was held, and attended by 13 Acharyas, headed by the sectorial secretary Acharya Parameshwarananda Avaduta and 120 Margis. Everyone felt Bábá's presence. Everyone also felt closer as a family. The weekend was highlighted by a Katha Kirtana party in the night, which featured 3 hours of touching stories of Bábá's first 2 visits to this country in 1968 and 1969 by the senior Margis who had the opportunity of personal contact with him, combined with very warm and devotional bhajanas. The mood created was so much like the DMC night in India. According to S.S. Dada, Bro Yogananda Freires said, "I know now, without a doubt, through many years of experience, that the more I progress in my spiritual practices, the more benefits I also receive in the physical and mental level of my existence." Chapter 3. Personal Contacts. Personal contact was introduced to the Margis in Mahárliká on the first 2 visits of the Guru, Sri Anandamurti, to his thousands of devotees, became a true embodiment of bliss and source of spiritual direction and guidance. It is said that when a disciple meets the Guru, the ultimate goal of one's life is achieved. Spiritual experiences of many devotees are in their sacred keeping, private and hidden from other people's knowledge. Somehow, whatever moments they had with the Guru are interludes for their hearts to remember. Untainted and pure at their best, Mahárliká and sadhakas shared their joys, which were drawn out only upon constant coding. Such experiences are never fully captured in words or expressed in their totality. When the disciple comes back from the mind-blowing experience, he comes back mute and unable to share the depths of the experience in words. In His Blissful Embrace by Mahárliká. Bábá's first visit. We were in queue for the much-awaited PC. People from all walks of life were lining up for a blissful father and son reunion. I saw rich and poor waiting for their turn for a once-in-a-lifetime spiritual experience. Everyone coming out from PC was in tears and in blissful mood for meeting his beloved. Instead of me confessing my sins to him, he told me my wrongdoings. I felt cleansed with his wand, which he gently poked at my physical body. I felt so blissful. I was in immense joy to be given such a special privilege to sit on his lap as we embraced each other. I felt profoundly happy in his embrace, and felt that he was watching each and every creation in the universe. With all these feelings and emotions overwhelming me, I could not help my tears roll down my face. Repulse PC. I was late on schedule for my PC, so I hurriedly went upstairs to apologize to Acharya. In spite of my lateness, he told me to prepare for PC, but he said that he was not sure if I would be given the privilege since I was expected over an hour ago. Luckily, Babaji consented, in spite of it being past his lunchtime. When I was allowed to come in the room, I prostrated myself before my master. While feeling so calm and serene, I looked up straight into his eyes. He immediately told me to stand up beside him. I was kneeling down on the floor by Babaji's bed while he was in a reclined position as he held me in his soft embrace and touched my head and shoulders. My heart pounding was filled with joy and contentment for this joyful event. He asked me if I had taken notes of that morning's lecture. I felt so sorry for not doing so and apologized profusely. However, I felt that Babaji did not mind. He was so gentle and kind in the most indescribable way. His fingers tenderly pressed on the middle of my forehead, then on the crown, as well as on my heart. He told me that in spite of my facing plenty of trials and tribulations, I should always remember, you are never alone, my son. I was very thankful to Babaji because I felt this assurance inside me, strengthening and rejuvenating me. I felt speechless, yet thanked him again and again for kissing his hands for this blissful experience, this privilege of physically meeting and being with him. Overpowered with Love by Eduardo B. Garcia. By far, the most wonderful experience yet I had was my contact with the Master. I found him to be a true universal man, a symbol of a perfect yogi. Indeed, he is the only person I truly cherish in my life. He is strict, yet just and full of love. In fact, during my intimate contact with him, he overpowered me with love. Why have you come only now? He asked me. I was speechless. I felt like a helpless little child as he took me on his lap. He cuddled and rocked me like any other mother would her baby. He told me my weaknesses, faults, and sins and made me promise not to repeat them, nor to misuse myself. He rejuvenated my heart that had degenerated due to weaknesses. He touched all the vital centers of my body throughout the Master's stay. Whenever the touch of the Master rose to my mind, tears of inexpressible joy would flow from my eyes at the most unexpected and even embarrassing moments. As an ardent student of yoga philosophy, I have gained new insights to various old religious beliefs and ideas that have often perplexed my mind. They have been very helpful in restoring and strengthening my faith in religion and its universality. With all these wonderful things happening to me, I only regret that I did not encounter yoga earlier. For My Beloved by Madana, first personal contact. I had a great opportunity to come in physical contact with my beloved Guru when he came to Mahárliká. When he was here, he kept a routine that included morning and evening walks. When Bábá arrived from one of his morning walks, those who were called were to form a queue at his door. Twice it was already my turn to get inside Bábá's room, but my Dada would call me to fetch a glass of water. I was frustrated, but then I know that my turn would surely come, and finally I had my PC. I entered his room and I did my Sastangi Pranama. Then he asked me, why did you come only now? I felt that intense divine vibration in that room. I felt that inexpressible love towards him. Then I told myself, why do I have this feeling towards him when I did not even know him? How should I call this man? I was thinking. Then he said, call me Bábá, my son. Call me Bábá. He then told that I did some wrong things in my life and that I needed to be punished. I answered, yes. He asked me which part of the body I should be punished. I answered, Bábá, I need to be punished on the head. Bábá said, no, my son, you should not be punished on the head, as Paramapurusha is there. Then he tenderly placed his stick on the side of my body. My entire body shuddered. Then, after punishing me, he pressed my trikuti, the space between the eyebrows, with his thumb. He told me to look at his eyes to see how my mind was working at that moment. Then, sadly, I had to leave the room to give way for others waiting outside. Second personal contact. On that first day in Baguio City, Baba's itinerary was to have lunch before his tour around the city. However, he told the PA that he would like to see his sons and daughters first before the city tour. So the ladies had their group audience with Baba, and the men their individual audience. When my individual audience came, I went to his room and did Sastanga Pranama. I felt the room was intensely vibrated with his divine love. I had again that intense, unexplainable love towards him. I told myself, why do I have this feeling of love when I did not even know him? Who is he? Tears just kept flowing from my eyes. I asked him, I don't even know you, Baba. Who are you, Baba? Who are you? He answered with such divine and enigmatic smile, I am the Supreme Father, my son. I am the Supreme Father. My mind seemed to stand still. He told me that I would be an idol son. Before I left, I asked him if I could touch his feet. He answered, yes. I massaged his feet a little bit and did again my Sastanga Pranama and left the room to give way for others waiting outside. Baba, my most beloved father, by Satya Gita. First personal contact. I saw brother Shantara waiting in line for PC. He was a senior medical student then. There was a cut on his eyebrow. The Margis told me that he had been meditating when Baba walked into the house. He had been so attracted to Baba that he leaped up from his meditation position and fell down that caused a cut on his eyebrow. We were all amazed by Baba's magnetism, as seen on how he affected the Margis around him. Finally, it was my turn for PC. I was instructed to prostrate myself when I entered the room while I was in that position. I heard his voice saying, "Get up, my boy, get up." I looked up and saw his hand motioning me to come closer. I noticed that family Acharya V.K. Ashtana was standing there with his hands behind his back, speaking in Hindi to Baba. There was Dudada Ashtana was a big man. He was talking as if he was a little boy. Then he must have left the room. I sat in front of Baba. He was lying on the bed on his right side with his head propped up on his left elbow. This posture is later learned was the Vishnu Mudra. Then he sat up and I just stared at him. He smiled, and that smile was so contagious that automatically my face also smiled. I was watching his movements very closely. He asked me, "What's your name, my boy?" I said, "Francis Anandamurti." I didn't call him Baba. "What are you doing, my boy?" "I'm studying." "And what are you studying?" "I'm going to medical school." He seemed happy and excited to learn that his son was going to a medical school. He called his personal assistant, who was apparently standing in the back of the room, though I had not been aware of it. "Vishokananda, this boy is a medical boy." I thought, my guru knows that I am a medical boy. I became confident that I would pass and become a doctor. He looked at me, shaking his head from side to side. "You're always saying, no, no, no." Initially, I could not understand what Baba meant. Then it was flashed in my mind that he knew how I would think whenever I was away from the meditation, when my mind would be very calm. When I shopped and worked for the organization, at any time that worldly thoughts and desires would arise, affecting the purity of my ideation, I would think, no, no, no. Baba said, "Your examination was very bad." This actually made me happy because it proved that he knew about my accounting examination. He was showing me that I was not alone. I felt that he was my own father. Out of that happiness, I asked him, without a second thought, "Baba, did I pass the examination?" I don't know why for the first time I called him Baba. It must have been because I was feeling that he was my own father. Then he changed his mood from a very loving father to being very serious and stern. He caught hold of my left ear and pinched out and wiggled it so painfully and said, "You naughty boy, don't you know that I am always watching you?" I could not understand what he meant. Then he asked, "Remember one day at 4 in the afternoon, you were doing this and you were thinking this way? Open your shirt." He got his stick and pointed to my body. "Whose is this?" I could not answer. He repeated, "Whose is this?" Automatically came out of my mouth, "It's yours, Baba." And why are you doing this and abusing your body? This belongs to me. I started to cry. I sobbed like a baby, crying out of guilt and shame. Baba asked, okay, are you ready to take punishment? My unit mind was still working and I felt afraid. Then the supreme command flashed in my mind about suffering the tortures of animal life for crores of years. I wondered if this most powerful entity might convert me into a lizard. In a challenging way, he asked, are you afraid? I replied, no, I'm not a coward. Then I started crying. Okay, raise your hands. I did so in surrender. He indicated with his hand that I should move to the side, with my left side facing him. He swung his stick up and said, okay, you count 1, 2, 3. It flashed in my mind that whenever my mother would punish me, she also asked me to count to 3. Then instinctively I bent forward to absorb the blow. Nothing happened. In silence, I tried to see him through the corner of my eyes. His face had transformed from a strict disciplinarian to a most loving father. I started to cry loudly, but this time out of relief, and my guilt and shame vanished. I felt I was still his son, and he had not rejected me the same way that my biological father, a physician, had done once when he told me in anger that I belonged in the farm and not in the city. With overwhelming love, Baba forgave me. He put his right hand on my chest and rubbed it down to my navel 3 times as though he was removing something. Then he said, okay, sit on my lap. I sat on his right thigh. With his left and right hands, he wiped away my tears. His hands were dripping with my tears. He said, don't you know that I am always looking after you, even if I am physically in America? I am always watching you. You can never hide anything from me. I have forgiven all your sins. You are now a newborn baby. Finally said, okay, you can go now. I stood up and left as if I was floating and walking in the clouds. I was mesmerized. When I opened the door, I saw the Margis in the line, all staring at me and asking what happened. I could not reply. Internally I thought, believe Aku, meaning I believe he was a true guru. Second personal contact, June 25. That night in Baguio at 10 o'clock in the evening, I was sleeping near Brother Leonardo Dada. Woke us up and said, Baba wants to give you a second PC. We went out of the room and fell in line with other Margis who were waiting. Brother Eli Latinaso was still and especially eager. When my turn came, I entered and prostrated again. This time he was sitting. He said, do you recall that you have seen me already? 3 times he asked me this. And I recalled a dream I once had at 3 o'clock p.m. in the afternoon. While awaking from a nap, I had seen the silhouette of a man standing in front of me. I told this to Dada Vimalananda, who said that it was Baba. When I remembered this dream, I replied to Baba in a complaining tone, but you didn't allow me to see you. He replied empathetically, and now I'm in front of you. Then I felt very emotional. I felt a profound happiness that I was in the presence of the most holy saint. Baba touched my throat with 2 fingers and said, you are my body. Next he touched my third eye with his thumb and 2 fingers. I closed my eyes. He held it for a time, perhaps 1 minute, and then he said, you are my mind. Then he touched the top of my head and said, you are my spirit. He did not speak more. I just sat beside him, on his bed in silence. I felt the serenity of the night. I found it so peaceful. With our being together, I could not even remember how I left the room. Who is your father? By Asadika. When we heard that Baba was arrested in Patna, I was very inspired to go to WT training right away. I felt that AM is truly a revolutionary movement. Rudy Manuel, Dada Sumit Anandaji, and I arrived from Manila in Patna early in the morning. We were told to proceed immediately to Varanasi because the CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, the Indian intelligence agents were coming regularly and we should not be seen there. Without any question, we took the first train to Varanasi. There we had to be advised for our scheduled PC with Baba before we could join the training. After a few days, Baba was released and immediately we left for Patna. On the train, Dada Sumitanandaji told us to memorize the Supreme Command, Yama Niyama and the 15 Shilas, because Baba would ask us of these. In my mind, I visualized how Baba might look like: a bright white halo of light around the head, or a brilliant white light emanating from the heart, etc. I also prepared some questions in my mind to ask him. The next day, we eagerly and excitedly fell in line for PC. I placed myself at the end. I was told to do Sastanga Pranama as I entered the room when it was my turn. So as I entered the room, without looking in front of me, I did Sastanga Pranama. As I lifted my head to get up, I saw not the one I thought of, but what seemed to be an ordinary person. Immediately I closed my eyes and laid my face on the floor, thinking that I was probably in the wrong room. I did not know what to do, until I heard the sweetest words: "Come, my little boy, come." I stood up and walked towards Baba and forgot everything else. Then Baba said, "I have been waiting for you. How come it took you so long to come?" I did not say anything, and no words came out from my mouth. Baba smiled and motioned me to get closer to him. He asked for my name, and I replied. He asked for my father's name, and I told him my worldly father's name. Again Baba asked for my father's name, and I repeated the same answer. He again repeated the same question, and I got really irritated. I angrily looked at Baba, and I was almost grinding my teeth as I tried to answer, and the word that came out of my mouth was Ba. Then Baba smiled and said, "Yes, Baba is your father." I was so relieved I could not help myself smiling. After that I felt really relaxed and easy. Then Baba began to tell me about what I did in all my life, even those many things that I had long forgotten. Baba would say, "You did this," and I would say, "Yes, Baba." Sometimes I would say, "Yes, Dada," and suddenly I remembered that I was talking to Baba. There were several times that I could not remember the incidents that Baba talked about, but then he would describe where it happened, what I thought at that time, and the details of what I did. Finally, I was convinced in my mind that Baba was not an ordinary being. If he was not God, at least he was not an ordinary man.